Hey everybody, Caleb Arthur here, founder and CEO of Sun Solar. So I get asked all the time about the future of energy. And the future of energy is sometimes a little bit difficult to explain, but it's easy for me to be able to comprehend because it's been 11 years now since I started Sun Solar. Before I started Sun Solar, energy to me felt like flipping a switch, the lights come on, everything works. It's as simple as that, right? But over the last 11 years, my mind around energy has grown and developed quite a bit. And starting out with building my own straw bale house, putting solar panels and batteries at my straw bale house, buying an electric car, now having an electric Ford Lightning truck, which I love so much, really growing that electric sustainability lifestyle has taught me a lot personally. And then on the business side, installing hundreds of thousands of solar panels, thousands, if not tens of thousands, of battery systems on residential and commercial applications, and seeing what's happening worldwide throughout the United States and locally with renewable energy, wind, solar, and battery storage really gets my mind working whenever I hear people come up to me in public and ask me about energy and the future of energy, or what, like today, earlier this morning, I was at an energy conference and a couple of the speakers were talking about the future energy grid. And one of the speakers in particular was talking about Walmart transitioning their truck fleet to all electric by 2050, I believe, if my memory serves me correctly, and how much electrification in the utility grid space was going to be needed just to convert Walmart's truck fleet to all electric trucks. And it's mind boggling to folks that understand energy needs on just converting gasoline vehicles to electric vehicles at the rate we're going at, and like how to wrap your head around that conceptually. Like, how do we generate that much more electricity for electric vehicles? And I'll never forget sitting down with some of the rural electric cooperatives over the last 11 years, and they were always very concerned about the very slow adoption here in Missouri of solar onto their grid, and they were concerned about the rapid adoption. I was saying it was happening very slowly, and they were concerned that it was going to hurt their revenues. They weren't saying revenues, but they were hurting about how many people were going solar. And I said, listen, for how fast EV electric vehicles are taking off, the added consumption of electricity on everybody's grid is going to outstrip the amount of solar that people are going to be able to generate on their homes and businesses 5 to 10 fold. And here we are. Everybody now is talking about how are we going to generate enough power through renewable energy on top of what we're already consuming to convert all of our gasoline and diesel vehicles over for the EV wave that's coming. And I'll tell you, it's a great problem to have, but it's a problem. And there are solutions. I can see solutions on the horizon, but it's a patchwork of solutions between wind and solar. But like the key puzzle piece that everybody has seen coming for years is the storage. And when I say storage, most people just assume battery storage. But when I see storage all over the place. The largest storage facility in Missouri. Does anybody know what the largest like electric storage facility in Missouri is? Do you guys know what the largest electric storage facility is? So, if one of you has a computer, Google Ameren, Missouri electric water storage facility, water reservoir storage facility. See what you come up with. What's it say? Tomahawk storage plant. And does it give you any details? Your eyes just got huge. What made your eyes get huge?
They have 1.2 million electric customers.
Yeah.
Just to start off with.
Yeah. Ameren has 1.2 million customers. Does it say anything about
Stores the natural power of 1.5 billion
one
gallons of water.
1.5 billion gallons of water, and it's on top of a mountain, kind of in southeast Missouri. Yeah, you guys even know this existed, Missouri. It's like one of the largest like energy storage places like in the Midwest. And people think that we need to build batteries, right? But look at that friggin' thing.
It makes 408 megawatts.
408 megawatts. You know how many batteries you'd have to install to equate?
1 megawatt is like 1,000 homes.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you see a picture of it? Yeah, we need to put a picture up on here. So it's like innovative stuff like that. Now, obviously, it can have downsides. That thing had a catastrophic failure years ago. I don't think it killed anybody, but it like wiped out the whole forest around it, knocked like a house down. But like the wall of it, something happened, and like the side of a wall of it broke out, and all the water came gushing out of it. But they dammed it up and built a lake on top of a mountain. And so you can pump water up into the top of it. And so what they were doing was their coal-fired power plants have extra power at night that they're not using. So when the coal has extra power with nowhere for it to go, they pump water up into the top of that lake. And during the day when they need extra power, they release the water and it hits the electric turbines and generates extra power. And they use that as just like a massive battery on top of that mountain. So you see things like that and you go, that is so genius and so amazing. And then you go, well, how many mountaintops and how many lakes could we build on mountaintops, right? So obviously it's not like super practical and takes up like a ton of room, but it's hydroelectric dams. It's kind of the same idea as a hydroelectric dam. They just built it on top of a mountain, but I always love showing people those photos and talking about that one project. Here in Springfield, City Utilities, I think had like a 2 megawatt battery storage facility that they built in 2 shipping containers right off Cox Road down by my house on the south side of Springfield, and they put it at a substation, and it can help provide critical load power or peak power for days whenever they need extra power going through that substation. And so there's that. But what does the future of energy look like for the United States? It's going to be freaking wild. So the history of utilities, right? Utility companies would burn fossil fuels, generate energy, build transmission lines, these huge, massive transmission lines, and from the like coal generating power plants would pump the electricity down these transmission lines. Then it would get to your local distribution lines, the smaller ones like outside your home. And then that power would come into your home and hit a little meter, and that little meter would spin, and you'd flip on your lights and your air conditioner, and you'd use power. And that was like all power was like one way from the power plant to your home through this distribution grid. And then when solar panels were introduced, solar panels started going on homes and businesses. And when you do that, solar starts backfeeding into the grid and making power go the other way. And you go, that's crazy to think about sending power back into the grid, and how in the world does that work? And, it seems pretty wild to think about sending power different directions. And the future of the grid is utilities are going to be more like power management companies than these power generation companies. And you're starting to already see it in different states or different locations. And prime example is I have the Tesla app on my phone. Tesla makes cars, but they also make batteries. And I have the control and access of my battery on my phone. But I also have the option, if customers want to give me access to their batteries. And if they're in certain markets and certain territories in the United States, I can sign their batteries up to sell their power back to their utility companies at different times of the day. And they can discharge the energy from their battery back into the utility company and get paid a premium for it when the utility needs that extra power to send into the utility grid to keep brownouts and blackouts from happening, especially in California and Texas, in these different states that are having power distribution issues. They're going to start doing that with cars. You're already starting to see it. My Ford Lightning truck, when I get home, I can plug my Ford Lightning truck in to my charger at my house. And my charger is not only designed to be a one-way charger, it's a bi-directional charger, and it can charge, the charger can charge my truck. My truck can also charge and power my house if the grid goes down. But there'll be a short time in a few years where my Ford truck will interact with my utility company. My utility company will send me a notification that says, hey, we're currently selling you power at 8 cents a kilowatt hour, 10 cents a kilowatt hour, or whatever it is. But we have a possible brownout coming up at 2 p.m. during our peak power load, and your truck is plugged in to our grid. If you would sell us 10% of your battery power, we'd pay you at 15 cents a kilowatt hour for that battery power because we need it, and you're plugged into the grid because I'm plugged in at work. We have a charger at work. Would you sell us 10% of your battery power at that? And I could just hit yes on my phone, or I could have it automatically set up where I would automatically sell whatever percentage of my battery power in my vehicle. You think about having 5,000 EVs plugged into a grid at a time that could all dispatch their power to help the power utility company. And the power utility company would gladly pay a small premium to have EVs discharge their battery versus having hundreds of $1 million wrapped up into natural gas peak power plants that they keep up and running. So you think about grid resiliency, grid build outs, the future of the energy company. It's going to be millions of homes and businesses with solar panels on them, battery storage facilities, EVs plugged into the grid. I don't know if people used to see it, but all the time on YouTube and Facebook, I used to see these solar freaking roadways videos. I don't know if you guys remember those videos, but it was huge. They're still developing that technology where the roadways are made out of solar panels and has wireless charging for EVs. I mean, if you just took like 5% of the existing U.S. roadways and made them into solar panels, you'd have enough solar energy to provide all the energy needs for the entire United States. So you think about like how much energy we really need is a ton, but how much space we actually really need to pull it off is not a lot compared to how much acreage and square miles that we have in the United States. Jock, will you Google how many square miles of solar panels we need in the United States to power all of our needs? I forgot what the answer is, but it's not as crazy as you think it is. 22,000 square miles. Is that what it says?
22,000 square miles of solar panel filled land about the size of Lake Michigan would be required to power the entire country.
So the size of Lake Michigan to power this size. So 22,000 square miles to power the entire United States. So 6.5 billion. It's a lot of panels. You think about the land mass, it's obviously at one point there was a study done just in the state of Missouri that if you took all the empty roof space available that was not being used and you covered it in solar panels, you could offset 40% of the energy needs just for Missouri with empty roof space. So there's obviously a lot of opportunity out there. One of the biggest is the policies. How do you get all the policies to align between utility companies, what people actually want, and then what are the regulatory issues that stand in the middle of that. So you have those, and then the next part is how do you fund it, right? And one of the big answers to how you fund it is actually being figured out right now. The Inflation Reduction Act, the IRA that was passed by Congress, has $27 billion to help kick that off. That's coming through right now. Those are coming through to be divvied up into all 50 states through infrastructure, green banks. And without getting too confusing, that money is to be used for energy efficiency and renewable energy projects all across the United States. And so Missouri will get $50 to $150 million, who knows, and we're going to be using that to put solar on roof spaces and things like that. So it's going to be critical to make sure that the money is invested wisely for our future, and that we're building sustainable options, that we don't waste this money on unsustainable items. And when people say, what does the future look like? It's easy for me. The future for, our generation and my kids' generation is 100% renewable energy. I mean, I can see the writing on the wall. So I don't know what the timeline looks like to being, United States or globally 100% renewable energy. Obviously, it'll take countries like China probably longer. But I think in the United States, during my lifetime, we'll see 100% renewable energy, or at least what they consider net zero. It's obviously going to take a lot of people pushing to get there, but we need to do it in, a sustainable manner without trying to destroy capitalism, without trying to have the government take total control of our lives. Whenever I see people having their thermostats completely controlled and people's thermostats shutting off and them living in 80-degree weather days in the summertime in their homes. Like, if people want to sign up for that and subscribe to that, that's fine. Personally, that's not how I want to live. If that's the only way that we save our planet from doom and gloom right now today, like, I guess that's a conversation for some really smart people to come have with me. But, like, that's not really how I want to live, and that's not how I'd want to impose will on other people. And I don't think when people are in that situation, they really appreciate it, or that's not what they really want. So I think there needs to be like a sound approach to how we win people's hearts and minds over to the sustainability future of what it looks like. Because for me, I'm more about freedom from more control of these things. And whenever I put solar on my house, it was to get away from more utility government control over these things. But I also see a need why, we need more funding from the government and more funding for these things to be able to occur and happen. But I think we need to have healthy pushback and make sure that this isn't being wasted, that there's not billions of dollars just being wasted on contracts or going to big banks or to cronyism or things like that. And so I'm going to have some unpopular opinions on certain things. There's people on both sides of the political aisle that get very worked up over clean energy for very rightful reasons. And I've obviously just kind of go down the middle, and I can see both sides of the argument. And really, at the end of the day, I'm here to provide service and advice on how we do it in the most meaningful, cost savings way possible. And I just try to be as logical as possible. Growing up on a farm, and watching my grandfather and great grandfather and even my dad build tools from scratch. I mean, we literally at times didn't have enough money to go to town and buy parts or tools. So if we didn't have the part, we would fix it or make it or weld it ourselves. And we didn't have wasteful lives or wasteful, frivolous spending or mindsets towards our lifestyle. And so I grew up just in a sustainable manner in a very rural area of Missouri. And so I run my business that way. I run my life that way. And I think there's ways to do this without getting too wild about it and destroying our way of living and destroying our freedoms. But I also think we need to get people aware that you can be on different ends of the political spectrum, but still transition to renewable energy for the right reasons. And I think that sadly politics has gotten way too involved in it, and I understand why, because that's just the world we live in. And it's very hard to even get renewable energy things done sometimes because politics gets so heavily involved. And it's drug me into politics even just to protect my business, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. It's taught me a lot about the process. We've gotten state laws changed here in Missouri. It's gotten me involved in laws even on a national, federal level. It's taught me a lot, but I think you have to be careful whenever you are involved in politics on how you represent your business and how you come across the customers, because customers are also very, I was saying earlier in my previous video, you vote with your dollars, right? And so if customers are voting with their dollars and they think you're politically aligned, they won't want to do business with you. And I want everybody to be able to believe in me and do business with me. I don't want to just one political spectrum to only do business with me. I want everybody to believe in the future that I want to create for our future generations. And so it's very important for me for everybody to be able to kind of get along and build this vision together, because it's not going to be great if just one side of a political spectrum wins everything and the other side loses. It's like, how do we do this together on multiple fronts, not just renewable energy? And so that's some of the things that I think about a lot running my company and having hundreds of employees, is like, how do we build our culture together? How do we build our future together? How does the future of energy look? How do we keep these rapidly advancing technologies? We have artificial intelligence now that's starting to rapidly advance. It's been rapidly advancing behind the scenes, and now it's out for kind of everybody to start engaging with and using. And now people can kind of see it and engage with it on a personal level if they want to. And like, how do we start using this stuff on a daily basis to enrich our lives? And how is that going to play a role in energy? So it's going to be wild to see what happens with our energy grid and how utilities react to it. Obviously, utilities are very slow to adopt new technology. We do things at Sun Solar at such a fast rate. Whenever new technology gets rolled out, we'll usually try it. We'll usually try it personally, like on my home or our business, months or even a year before we'll try it at a customer's house, just to see how well it's going to hold up, so that we don't have issues with it failing at customers' homes. But things that we're trying now, utilities won't try for another 3 to 5 years. And I just wish utilities were somehow incentivized internally to adopt and try new things faster, because I think that would speed up their mindset. But their business model is 50 to 60 years old, and they're not really incentivized to change. They're incentivized to make money and to keep things the way it's been. And so it's a little bit difficult for them. To where I'm incentivized, my incentives are to give customers what they want, and 95% of the time my customers want to save money, and the way they save money is by locking in their utility rates and protecting themselves from inflation. And I tell my employees this when we do business meetings or we do company meetings. I say, there's not a lot of things that middle-class Americans have been able to invest in over the last 30 to 50 years. I've talked to my parents and grandparents a lot, and 401ks, all these different things, they can all be manipulated. and there's not a lot of things that the middle class has been able to invest in and not get taken advantage of by the government or by politicians or whoever, or the stock market or whatever it is, right? And solar, you think about solar for a few minutes. It's like this loophole in this system that's been rigged against middle class. The middle class, if you haven't noticed, has been shrinking over the last 20, 30 years. Um, the lower class is growing, and they're trying to push. It's gamed. The system's gamed to push people out of the middle class into the lower class for more control. And the way to help protect middle class is to create more, keep the wealth in the middle class, right? Well, you have to like be able to invest and protect your assets in the middle class, right? And doing things like investing in solar can definitely help do that, right? But housing crash happened, 401ks dip down, right? You think about who can hurt your return on investment for solar. There's two things that can hurt your return on investment for solar. Anybody know what those are? It would be your utility rate would go down. That would make your return on investment go down. Or you're not producing solar because the sun's not shining. And I always tell my employees, what's the chances of those two things happening? Either the utility decreasing the utility rate consistently over time, or the sun no longer shining, which if the sun no longer shines, we've got way bigger issues than the return on investment for solar, because if the sun stops shining, we're all dead as a species. So there's that. So with those two things being said, solar was like the one avenue that I could see where middle class Americans could kind of get back at the man, and that was appealing to me, being from a small family owned business, being in law enforcement, and then starting this business, and just being a middle class American myself. This was like a way to kind of give back and help protect more middle class Americans. So that's kind of my spiel on this. But thank you everybody for tuning in on what the future of the American energy grid looks like, and we're really excited on the future of this. And I'll show you guys some examples of the battery technology that we currently use and everything else that we got going on. So thanks everybody.